Kai Gates, and I am the founder of this media project, the Adjunct Success Initiative here at CCP. And I'm also a part-time instructor in the English department. And here we learn all about learning outcomes and resources for our students, as well as adjuncts, as well as assessment measures and high-impact teaching practices. And today, Junior Brainard, who is co-president of the full-time bargaining unit, is here to talk with us about CCP's union. So welcome, Junior. How are you today?
Thanks. I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, and just to add in that we have co-chairs of all three bargaining units, and I'm currently co-president of the local. So there's two other people who are co-chairs of the full-time faculty bargaining unit.
Excellent.
Anyway.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about just how you came to CCP? Mm-hmm. You're also an instructor in the English department, and also how you came to do union work.
Sure. I was originally a high school social studies teacher and taught in Philadelphia for about a year, and realized that I wanted to learn more about how to teach reading and writing so that my students could better access the content of what I was teaching. You know, it was difficult to teach history if I was also trying to teach students how to read about history.
Yes.
So, you know, fast forward a little bit, I ended up getting my master's in education, essentially in teaching reading and writing.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really kind of the pathway I took to, you know, teaching English, basically. I really also got interested in teaching here at CCP when I was working at a local nonprofit with single parents who were returning to school after having not been in school for a while, and the vast majority of them were taking courses here at CCP. And so through supporting them and tutoring a lot of them, I started reading their syllabi and seeing, oh, this sounds like an interesting course. And so I got interested in teaching at CCP kind of through working there. I teach a lot of developmental English here at CCP, which I really enjoy, as well as college writing and research writing. And to me, you know, in some ways I think I'm a social studies teacher undercover in the English department, you know, because a lot of the texts that I assign I think are historically based. But ultimately to me, you know, reading and writing is about learning to think critically and learning about how to have your own ideas and how to express those, which is central to kind of what I'm interested in as a teacher and fits, I think, very well with a lot of the English courses that I teach here.
Definitely.
So, there's a second question about how I got involved with the union here. So I started here as a part-time faculty member in 2009, and I've been full-time since 2010. I initially really got interested in being a part of our union in 2012 when I saw the Chicago Teachers Union go on strike. And what impressed me about that was seeing the ways that teachers had really organized alongside their students and their parents and their communities. And when they went into the street in 2012, it was with the support of Chicago. And you know, then as I learned more about that, and I learned about how a group of teachers within the Chicago Teachers Union had organized for years before they came into union leadership, that felt really inspiring to me in terms of how they really kind of pushed back against some of the tactics the union had taken in the past, and took responsibility for ways that the union in Chicago had, in some ways, not stood up for the communities in ways that they should have. And so when Karen Lewis was elected into office as president of Chicago's Teachers Union, to me that was just really inspiring, and I started thinking about getting involved with my local union as a way of being a part of a larger movement for educational justice. And seeing being a part of a union is not just about, you know, fighting for wages and benefits, but fighting for the issues that matter to our students and our communities.
Excellent. That's interesting because I was actually not living in Chicago at the time, but I was a full-time instructor at Chicago State University, so I was kind of a part of that. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So CCP, I think, has one of the strongest unions, in the city, especially for part-timers.
Right, right.
How does a union benefit part-timers? Because I can tell you, when I first started teaching at CCP, which was 2014, which you helped me to get hired here, I had no idea about the union.
Right,
I had no idea about the benefits here.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so our union is unusual in that our part-time faculty have been a part of our union since the 1980s. And as a result of that, we have a contract for part-time faculty that provides benefits that, many other colleges don't provide to their part-time faculty. One of the main benefits that we offer to part-time faculty here is seniority, and having a seniority system so that courses are assigned in a way that is fairer than just sort of leaving that up to an individual to decide who they want to hire each semester. So what that means is that the longer you work here, the more job security you have. I think that also benefits students in the sense that it's better to have faculty who can count on getting work and who can count on preparing for a course than to have someone who's assigned to a course, the day before it starts. And so I think like having that continuity is important. And then there's certainly other benefits that have more to do with just things like health insurance, right? Yeah. That part-time faculty can have, can get health insurance through the college and pay towards that, but there is a college contribution to healthcare. There's a college contribution to retirement when you are of a certain seniority pool. There's a disability and travel fund. And a lot of the protections that are in our full-time contract also apply to part-time faculty as well. So, there's institutions where the class size is actually different for part-time faculty than for full-time faculty. Right. That's not the case here. So our class size protection, our academic freedom protections, the kind of the fact that we have a ratio of how many counselors have to be working here based on how many students are enrolled. So like all of that, I think, is also a benefit for part-time faculty. And then another benefit that's not in the part-time faculty contract, but is very much related to part-time faculty, is that we have a ratio. So, and by a ratio of that has to do with what % of the sections that are taught here at CCP have to be taught by full-time faculty. And it's about 60% of the sections. What that means is that it forces the college to have to hire full-time faculty. Nationally, we're at a moment right now where colleges and universities are shrinking the ranks of their tenured full-time faculty and relying much more heavily on contingent faculty, whether that's part-time adjuncts or non-tenure track full-time faculty, any kind of contingent faculty. And so what CCP has to do is they have to make sure that a certain number of sections are taught by full-time faculty. And so that means that there is hiring for full-time faculty positions that keeps those lines open to a certain degree, because we know that many of our part-time faculty are trying to move into full-time positions. Right. The other thing that it does is we have a temporary 1-year full-time position called a visiting lecturer position here, and when the college is not in compliance with the ratio, one of the things that they can do is hire VLs. And so they often hire VLs to work full-time, and that's because they have to be in compliance with the ratio as well. So VLs, they can hire more quickly. So, right. So that's also built into our contract, right? The number of sections that have to be taught by full-time faculty. I also think that there's a benefit to part-time faculty for being in a union with the other full-time faculty here and the staff who work here. Right. I think one of our strengths is that we are almost a wall-to-wall union, and by wall-to-wall I mean from housekeepers to IT to all of our instructors in our classroom are part of a union together, and that we're stronger the more people who work here who are a part of our union. So even though there are 3 bargaining units, part-time faculty, I think, we all benefit from being in a union together, and sharing our knowledge and resources and being able to negotiate contracts together. You know, all of our contracts begin and end at the same time. So when we go into negotiations, we're negotiating 3 separate contracts. We have 3 negotiating teams, but we are negotiating those contracts to begin and end at the same time. So we're in a situation now in 2018 where we've been trying to negotiate contracts for 3 years.
Right.
And, you know, because of the lack of progress in negotiations, we're considering, you know, that we need to be organizing for a strike. And, you know, if we strike, right, that'll be to improve to fight for the future of the college, but also to improve not just the working conditions for faculty and staff, but also the educational experience for students.
Definitely.
And so, you know, I think part-time faculty also get to participate in that and benefit from that as well. So.
And can you speak to what a strike would do?
Sure.
And benefits that would be available for adjuncts, because obviously part-timers would probably be a little bit more averse towards a strike, but how can you speak to how that would benefit overall?
Sure. So, you know, a strike is really a tool of last resort.
Right.
So it's not something that anyone wants to do. You know, it's not a goal to go on strike.
Yeah.
But I think it's something we're considering right now because we have tried every other avenue and not seen enough progress in negotiations. You know, for part-time faculty, you know, if we went on strike, right, we would be, instead of at work, we would be on the picket line, right, outside the college. And the idea is that it creates a crisis. It creates a crisis for a number of people, including the college administration, because the college is not open, right, and students cannot take classes. So, you know, during a strike, we don't get paid. Right. So, so people need to prepare. Right. And that's one of the things we're talking to our members right now about, like, how do you prepare for a strike? Right. We do have a negotiation strike fund. That's part of our union preparation for going on strike. That can be used for a number of things. One of which could be reimbursing people for wages that they lost. Academic year faculty. In the past have sometimes not needed to get their wages reimbursed because the strike has been settled soon enough that the spring semester or the semester when the strike is happening can be concluded. And so if we conclude the spring semester, and can win a contract that way, that's a win all around, right? Because it means we get contracts and students get to finish the semester, and academic year faculty get paid their normal pay. You know, you don't get it during the course of the strike, but it comes back around. Okay. You know, another aspect that we've been, you know, preparing our members for is the possibility that the administration could cut off our health insurance. Legally, when workers are on strike, you know, the management does not have to provide health care. Now, in the past, they have not cut off our health care, but we're preparing for the worst case scenario, and so there are measures in place so that if they did cut off health care, you know, our members could go on to what's called COBRA, and there'd be no one would go without health care. Right. You know, so it would just mean there's a few more logistical hoops people would have to jump through. Right. But ultimately, it's you know, a strike is a tool of last resort. You know, I hope that it does not come to that, but I also know that we need to be prepared for that in case we need to use that tool to preserve the benefits that we have and to really, to me, this current fight is a fight for the future of the college and the institution. Right. So. You know, I think
CCP has gone on strike before, and it was successful.
Yeah. So our union has a history of striking. You know, going back to the 1970s, and you know, strikes are one of the main ways that our local has made progress and won improvements in our contracts. You know, I think these negotiations we're in right now are quite different from prior negotiations in that we're seeing an administration that has proposed the most extreme set of takeaways ever in the history of collective bargaining here at CCP. And so, and that they've moved in some very small ways off of that initial starting proposal since we began 3 years ago. And so I think what we're up against is in some ways even the fight is even more important, and the risks are even greater right now than they have been in the past.
Yeah. And overall, how does a union benefit a workplace? I know that Amazon is a company, even though it's a company, it's not an institution. They actually say they don't want to have unions, so they try to make their workplace like the best workplace ever. Like, what are your thoughts about that, or how does a union make a workplace better?
To me, a union is a really critical part of just having workplace democracy. It's about having the right to express your opinion without fear of retaliation. It's about having a voice in how the workplace is run. It's about having a different kind of relationship to your colleagues, where you're, working together and fighting together for everyone's benefit, as opposed to people individually kind of negotiating for their own individual benefit. I think, I support raising the minimum wage. I also support everyone having the right to have a union. And that, to me, one of the benefits of being in a union here at CCP is this sense that I can put energy towards being a part of an institution that is fighting for the common and collective good, as opposed to just my own self-interest. And that for me, it provides a way of thinking about how my own self-interest ultimately really is served by being a part of a larger group. That it doesn't help students here if I were able to negotiate a higher salary for myself. I think it does benefit students when the offer from CCP for everyone is competitive, in this way that that we attract, lots of people who want to work here. In the same way that, I don't, that it doesn't, I don't think it benefits the whole community for people just to be fighting for themselves. Even though that's so much of what we're taught in terms of how to be a professional is to put all of our energy into, our own sort of like self-development.
Definitely.
So, I think for me, it's about being a part of something larger.
And just a couple last questions. So how can part-time people find out about the union? Because again, during the onboarding process, there is no information about that. And also, like, what is your vision for the future of the union?
Well, I'm really excited you're here. I don't know if people know that you're the new co-chair of the PTVL unit. So, I think that I'm really glad you're talking to people and meeting people and doing this interview, because I think this might be one of the ways people find out about the union. I think that since we actually have a proposal in negotiations to ask that we find out about who has been hired more in a more timely fashion, so that there can be more active outreach from the union to newly hired faculty. But I mean, one of the ways part-time faculty can learn more is through, we have general membership meetings twice a year. We have rep council meetings. Part-time faculty are welcome to come to any of those meetings. There's part-time bargaining unit meetings that happen. So there's meetings that happen people can show up to. But also, talking to their colleagues, whether that's full-time faculty or part-time faculty. Talk to people who've been here a while about with questions about the union, right? It doesn't have to be in a formal union setting. And then my hope is that there can really be, and we've had this to some extent in the past, more of a sort of orientation to the union for new faculty and new staff, where people can come and get kind of an overview of the benefits and the resources and learn more about what's in the contract and what's happening. So that's one of the things I'm excited to work with you on, is having a clear pathway for part-time faculty to, get oriented to the college and to the union. And another way this kind of relates back to what you were saying about the benefits of being in a union. We have a joint governance structure here at CCP that is part of our union contract. And what that means is that faculty, staff, students, and administration are all part of the governance of the college. And we have a standing committee structure that's a part of that. And part-time faculty can serve on those standing committees, right? So I think sometimes people think of standing committees as part of governance and not as part of union work. And I think that it's important for us to be really thinking about like governing our college is union work, right? Serving on standing committees is union work. And if people are interested in getting involved in the decision-making of the college, the union appoints people to standing committees every academic year. Okay. So in the spring, when there's a call put out for delegates to those standing committees, that's something part-time faculty are welcome to nominate themselves for.
And these standing committees serve different aspects of the college,
so we have an academic affairs standing committee, a curriculum standing committee, student affairs, business affairs, and the technology coordinating committee. So those are all standing committees that make decisions and recommendations on policies in terms of how the college is run.
Right.
So,
I think that's good to know because a lot of people don't know that.
And I mean, it's primarily in terms of the faculty serving on those committees, it's primarily full-time faculty, but part-time faculty are welcome to participate in those as well.
And students are as well.
Students also appoint delegates. There's an equal number of delegates from each students, faculty, administration, and some of the standing committees have staff delegates.
Okay, good to know. And then what's your vision for the union?
Yes.
Really, what do you want to see happen?
So, I would love to see our union really be a leader, not just at CCP, but in Philadelphia, around, what does high quality public education look like for Philadelphia?
I think that's great.
That our union really needs to, I think, be a leader in terms of thinking about the kinds of the kind of education that Philadelphians want, right? And how do we create the kind of college that's going to benefit our city? We live in a city that has the highest poverty rate across the major cities in the country. I think CCP can play a role in addressing that, right? And helping to fight for higher wages across all of the sectors that our graduates are going to be working in when they leave CCP. So I think that that's, to me, it's like the longer term vision is like being a leader in sort of imagining the kind of economy that we want in Philadelphia. And how do we create actual living wage jobs, not just here but for Philadelphians. And I think that means working with lots of people outside the college and the organizations and people who are already doing that, as well as working internally with our own members in terms of helping to raise people's consciousness and awareness of why that's an important role for us. I also think that internally, I really have a vision for our union where we're not so much just about where we go beyond just filing grievances and doing contract enforcement and really think about building a union that is about helping our colleagues get along with each other and respect each other and, that we're building that kind of community, that centers dignity and respect for each other. As much as we're demanding that from the administration, I want to see us demand that of each other, and I think that means centering, racial justice internally and thinking about how that works outside of the college, right? And thinking centering economic justice internally, but also thinking about how that works externally as well. So kind of taking those broader principles we're fighting for, in our workplace and externally, and also applying those to ourselves.
That's great.
So to me, that's that a union is ultimately about the relationships we have with one another, as well as the contracts that we're winning. But using both of those to fight for a broader vision in Philadelphia.
Okay. And just any last thoughts or anything else that you may want to?
Well, I'm really excited that you're going to be leading our part-time unit and with Aretha Baskerville-Lindsay and. So I think this is an exciting time for the PTVL unit, and contingent faculty across the Philadelphia area are getting organized and are are winning unions and are winning
Yes,
contracts.
yes.
And I'm excited for part-time faculty here, who I know also work at many of those other institutions,
Yes.
to feel a part of a broader movement of contingent faculty across the region. So, I mean, I've heard there's 15,000 contingent faculty in the Philadelphia region.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's about 900 of them on our
Yes.
PTVL seniority list. But I think, you know, the more that we can build our union to also stand in solidarity with other adjuncts, the stronger we're all going to be.
Okay.
So
I think that's great. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Junior,
Thanks.
for
Yeah.
staying with us.
yeah, thanks for.
So we just want to thank everybody for joining us. We had Junior Brainard here with us today talking about CCP's union, and stay tuned for more interviews. Take care.